Think of chakras as they're truly energy bodies. And we tend to think of them as verticals, so we'll just go with that, kind of coming up the spine or in the field as well. They're balls of energy. They spin. They don't just spin in one direction. They're aligned, and each chakra is a computer expert on a band of frequencies. And that bandwidth of frequencies can be described as a range of colors, a spectrum of color, and a spectrum of sound. So it's very science is, what it is. So each chakra attracts that particular band of frequencies. It brings it into itself based on its programming. It communicates with the brain, maybe the soul too, and deciphers what's brought in and then communicates outward. Mainly with psychic or subtle energy, kind of along that band of frequencies. Now, the band of frequencies isn't all measurable, like our vision really only sees like 0.035%, of all light. Chakras go much broader and vaster than that. So they go almost, I think, I love to be poetic about it, but out into the infinity. So each chakra is sort of the master or in charge of a certain form of intuition, a certain form of communication. It's just psychic communication. It's subtle communication. So your 10th chakra underneath the feet, the grounding one, is busily engaging with communication, with energy, information that's about the cosmos, the earth, and your ancestry. All right. First chakra is in the hips. That's the home of physicality. So it's the red energy center, but it's working with the data that's about the physical form, money, air, health, big chakra, very, very here and now, what we need to survive. Second chakra, it's in the womb. That's where we process feelings. By the way, that's where your enteric nervous system is, your microbiome, which is really all about feelings, right? And your immune system, huge important chakra. And, we tend to think of it as intuitively being about feeling empathy or understanding what's going on emotionally. Third chakra in the solar plexus, claircognizance, clear knowing, it's data. It's intuitive data. Gut sense, that's your gut sense. Some studies years and years ago showed that CEOs and higher earning, kind of professionals had more gut sense and were more accurate than even psychics. So they ain't reading all those reports that we're all writing in work. All right. Heart, relational empathy, also the center of healing, tuning into people, what's needed. Throat, that's the main center of clairaudience. Verbal, kind of where you pick up on psychic data and turn it into thoughts or what you can understand or speak as well. The brow, sixth chakra, that's the main center of clairvoyance, the seeing of the colored pictures. Everybody has it. Everybody wants it. Most people don't think they have it. You have it. If you can picture a tree, when I bring up the word tree, you're clairvoyant. If you get dreams and you got visions, you're clairvoyant. It's just kind of about practicing it. Seventh chakra, top of the head, spiritual empathy, knowing, connectivity. Now we're again more out of the body. Eighth chakra, the shaman, cross time, flying around, using all the gifts. Ninth chakra, gold, above the head. That's a very particular one. I think that's the chakra of harmony, where you're able to bring together key ideas and harmonize them. But people who do numerology or power animals or are really specific to symbols often are ninth chakra. We did the 10th, 11th, commanding, moving forces, changing the weather, raising the dead. I've never gone that far with it, but right? Praying over somebody, laying out of hands. If there's that intention to move energy, very 11th chakra. 12th is unique to who you are. So that's the system. I love codifying. I love systems because the brain likes systems. the brain likes going, oh, I get it. If I want to know, kind of what's happening in a relationship, I can tune in through my heart. If I want to get words or some kind of verbal guidance, I can tune in through my throat chakra. So it gives you a place, and it gives you, kind of a stepping off point.
Got it. So let's segue into the 4 pathways of healing. I think this paradigm that you're presenting is pretty interesting. So to let us know what they are and what's unique about each one.
So in my book, Advanced Chakra Healing, which I actually first wrote like 18 years ago, and it came out shorter than it is now, and people started buying it, and that particular publishing company was sold, and Random House got the book and killed it. But it's sold on the equivalent of the dark web. No, not really, cancel that out, but like an indie book on Amazon for like $150. So it had this hidden life, and now it's reissued, and people are like, wow, this stuff's really interesting. And it was like, well, I thought it was 18 years ago, but whatever. So this is the book that's very chakra based, chakras kind of being elevators, kind of between these two universes, heavenly, absolute, the standard universe, right? That kind of moves and helps mix everything together and gives you your sense of intuition and your faculties. But in that paradigm, there's also kind of, I propose that there's 4 basic levels of reality, and we exist on all of them. I mean, we know that there's at least 10 dimensions. So it's sort of the same thought, but it's not quite as, what's the 7th dimension? It's not quite so, gosh, I can't get my brain there. It's 4 levels of reality. There's sort of like 3-dimensional chess boards, and we're in all of them, and we can mix. So the basic, and why it's important to know this is we hardly ever get off this first one, the elemental pathway, which is very foundational. It's building blocks. It's colors, shapes, sounds, elements, feelings, beliefs, physicality, food, air. It's really primal. It's that point less than, kind of 0.1% of the world is elemental. And what do we spend most of our time focused on? Doing healing work in there, that one. It's great. It's valid. However, we all know how hard it is to change, right? So kind of interlaced with that one, the one I usually present next is the power pathway. And it's here. Everybody's on it. I just finished a really extensive class for the Shift Network on it. And people are like, this is so cool. And it is. So the power pathway is sort of like a great big blank space, and on it or in it are forces of energy that you get to move around or have beings help you move around. For instance, there's generative and degenerative forces. So let's say you have a tumor on the elemental pathway. You've done chemo, you've changed your diet, you've done your belief systems, you've done your regression into childhood, right? You've done everything, and the tumor keeps growing. If you take a power pathway perspective, you may go, wow, there's a generative force on the tumor, growing the tumor. There's a degenerative force on my healthy cells, keeping my immune system repressed. What if I switch those? Simple concept, big change. The imaginal pathway is sort of very cross-universal. It's the shamanic pathway. In most of my studies in other countries, this was really how we were working. You're talking the soul, you're talking past lives, you're talking ancestors' lives, parallel realities, future potentialities, beings from other planets and places. And, is your experience in this lifetime just from this lifetime? No. So maybe you want to get to the heart of the matter. When did this first get, kind of locked in? What kind of otherworldly beings or forces, that are more mystical are impacting you negatively, and how can you shift it? Then the final pathway, but they're not in an order of good bad to good. Okay. Of not preferred to preferred is the divine pathway. And probably people can feel it when I talk about it. Um, it's the heavenly universe. It's still rich with energy bodies and sort of standard guidelines, but we can access the dimensions very easily here. You can work the inner quotients of the spine here and make huge change because there's spiritual matter in the middle of your spine that's more about the divine pathway. But this is more of that essential one where it's not about good or bad or perfect or not perfect. The healing I work on the divine pathway is about assuming that if something's uncomfortable and we want to shift it, don't judge it. It's simply an attempt to meet a need, maybe not our own, maybe even our ancestors, maybe our parents, maybe our partners. And if you find a different way to meet the need, and there's a certain amount of aligning with God, with divine will here, it can shift because you can have a more comfortable way to meet a need. So those are the pathways, and I think they afford, again, organization in this very messy world to how to approach healing, and very distinct approaches to healing and manifesting.
So on the topic of healing, say a physical issue, would you work on multiple dimensions in order to address that, or would you do them sequentially, or would that vary person to person?
I think it varies person to person and issue to issue, to be honest. When I'm working with a client, I go with guidance. I usually connect in with my own essence, kind of connect to their essence, the helpers, spirit allies that are available, turn it all over to, greater spirit, whatever word people want to use, the Holy One. And then I go with guidance, mine and or the clients. But what I have found is that sometimes the client who is the most mystical, who's the best meditator, that's not where I start. I'm like, so how are you going to deal with that anger? Right on the elemental pathway. Are you okay with being angry? Right? Are you okay with, sharing your anger? Because anger is a good thing. Anger sets boundaries. Or that person who might be really stuck in that, gosh, I'm an addict. I'm in the elemental doldrums. I can't get a job. I can't get going. I may be led to go to the power pathway and go, you know what, let's just make a big change really quick, because you don't want to spend 28 years in therapy going through this. You're 70 or, whatever it might be. Like, you've been at this for a while. So I really go where I'm led. And one lovely way to work is to always hold the divine pathway, right? And then to kind of work all the others, because it tends to be the most grace-filled approach too.